Okay, so this video is just the wrapping up of the two tax impositions. So we looked first at the producer tax graph. So we looked at the imposition of a quantity tax of $50 that the producer is responsible for paying. A subsequent video looked at the consumer tax graph, which was implementing a $50 quantity tax that the consumer was responsible for paying. So at this point, what we want to do is look at the implications. So first question is there any difference between a tax on consumers or producers? Well, let's kind of make these just a little bit bigger. What we found out was that, technically speaking, it didn't matter whether the tax was imposed on the producer or the consumer. We still ended up with the same, let me again make this a little bit more larger. We still ended up with the same price being paid by consumers. So that's connected. The price being received by producers is the same. The tax was the same. The quantities after the imposition were the same. If you look at the consumer surplus, it's the same, and the producer surplus, it's the same. Same deadweight loss too. So the basic issue is it sounds like it's a problem for consumers if you say, oh, the consumer pays the tax, or it sounds like a problem for the producers if you say the producer pays the tax. But the fact of the matter, it really doesn't matter. We still get the same prices, we still get the same quantities, we still get the same kind of quality of feeling on the part of the consumers as measured by the consumer surplus, and the same level of profit as experienced by the producers, as shown in the producer surplus, that it really doesn't matter, right? So, which kind of brings us to that second question, is evaluate the statement, there are no real taxes on consumers or producers, just taxes on transactions. So what this basically is saying, as we've just shown at least with the graphs in the previous question, a $50 tax is a $50 tax whether consumers are responsible for paying it or producers are responsible for paying it. We end up coming to the same result. So that's why we say it's a tax on a transaction, and the two parties in the transaction, they're both affected the same way whether consumers are ultimately responsible for paying or producers. Okay, so this is a key takeaway. The tax produces a particular result, and it really doesn't matter, at least in terms of these economic measures that we're using, consumer and producer surplus, tax revenue generated, prices and quantities, it doesn't matter. Okay, so in later videos we'll look at the role of elasticities to start looking at how much of a tax gets passed along in the price. You could probably infer some of this from the results here, but and it'll probably be for a later module, but still, you might want to think about that.